Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Chasing 100 podcast. Today we have on with us a really good friend of mine. His name is Dunluvly.
Hello.
How are you? How have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been keeping well.
Keeping busy.
Yep, sure have been. I've been, if anything, quarantine has been working quite well for me because I was going to be quarantining myself anyway. And
I'd say it works well for musicians, alright.
Yeah, it seems to. There are a few of my friends now that I've spoken to. They've been suffering with writer's block a little bit, and it's been getting them down a little bit. But for the most part, it seems like everyone's a lot more creative out there on the social medias at the minute. Yeah, I'm happy with where things are at the minute. It's a tough time, but things are working out for me anyway.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah, Dunlovely is a musician, excuse me. And maybe you just tell everyone where the name Dunlovely came from, if you don't mind. Yeah,
of course. It actually initially came from the Cycle Superstore, a bike shop that I used to work in. Yeah. Dunluvly is just what I was sort of called. It developed over a couple of years. Just everyone in work would call me Mr. Dunluvly, and it's not necessarily unique to me either. My brothers got called it when they went in for work experience. My name is Dunleavy, so it's just sort of a nickname because we're just such lovely people, and. Yeah.
So it's a family nickname.
Yeah, for the most part anyway. I know my cousin has called it by her friends as well. And I just thought it was always a funny sort of take on, some sort of more serious solo names like Seal or like Akon or something like that. So yeah, I just thought it'd be good for the music industry.
Yeah, it's like how Lord's real name is like Ella or something. Like how do you get Lord from whatever, Sarah or Ella or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, you've always been musical as long as I've known you anyway.
Yeah, for the most part anyway.
You went on and you studied it in college.
Yeah, I studied music technology in Maynooth University, and I've been musical from quite a young age. I suppose I started playing music for the first time when I was 7, when I asked my mum if I could start learning to play the violin. And as the great woman that she is, she took me very seriously at a young age of 7, and she bought me a violin, and so I started that when I was 7, and then she moved. When I was, I think a year later, when I was about 8, I enrolled in piano lessons. And the piano lessons, I didn't stick at piano for too long. I did piano for about 2 years, maybe. I don't know. Just the reason I quit is just because my piano teacher, she was just she was a bit shy. She was just a bit shy, if I'm honest. Not that she wasn't a good pianist or anything like that. She was a very, very good player, but she was just really strict, and she used to get really angry at you for playing wrong notes. And as a scared young 8-year-old that I was, I used to be fucking scared to go to practice because I'd play a wrong note, and then she'd just be like, "No, that is wrong." So yeah, I quit piano probably at about the age of 10. Then I picked up the guitar at the age of 13. I think I got one for Christmas when I was like 11, and it sat in my room. I think I learned how to play like Smoke on the Water when I was like 11, and then it just sat in my room. And then at the age of 13, I just started learning how to play off YouTube tutorials, and then that slowly developed into just sort of figuring out how to learn things by ear. And it would have been sort of around that time as well that I started looking into production. I think if you go onto my SoundCloud, you can find a very juvenile production. I suppose that doesn't really make that much sense, but it was the first piece of production I ever made was a cover of an Ellie Goulding song. I think it's called Hearts Without Chains, and I did it on Audacity, and I bought like a podcast mic. It was like a USB interface mic, so you don't have to buy like a mixing desk or anything. You just plug it straight in, and I recorded all of the drum parts with like a cajon, and then like just a Yamaha little keyboard that had like a load of weird sounds on it, and yeah, I thought that was class when I made it. It wasn't terrible, I suppose, looking back on it, for given that I knew fuck all about production. But wait, are we allowed to swear? This is going to be like a...
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Don't worry. This is my podcast.
Okay,
no
good.
way I'd get through without dropping a few F-bombs.
Okay, cool. So yeah, then when I was about, I'm going to say 14, I essentially borrowed my mum's laptop indefinitely, and I downloaded a cracked copy of FL Studio, which is, if anyone knows, it's kind of like it's marketed quite well as like a DJ software, just because it's extremely easy to get what sounds like actual music coming out of your computer within a few minutes. But yeah, because of that, I suppose it has a pretty bad name in the music industry, because it's sort of looked at as like a basic software, excuse me, but it's actually, yeah, it can do everything that every other software can do. I then, I suppose, I started producing loads of little DJ bits. I think for about 4 years I thought I was going to be the next Avicii. I posted a lot of sort of EDM, sort of house style tracks on SoundCloud. Then
that changed.
That did change quite a bit.
Yeah.
I never, like, while growing up and stuff, I've always listened to folk music and indie music and sort of a little bit of alt rock and stuff, but mostly like I really, really like that sort of Irish indie sound. I think over the summer we all were describing it as O2 ad sound. You know, like that.
Yeah.
Those sort
That's
of
a playlist, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a Spotify
Yeah.
playlist called O2 ads. It's I think it's one of my best. It's and some of them aren't even on O2 ads, but it's all that kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually I started producing. I think the first song I ever produced was part of the first ever release. It was an EP that I put up on Spotify called Sword Fighting, and I think it's definitely like top 2 or 3 favourite songs that I've put out. It's my favourite one to play live because it's like the only one that I've got any little section where I can get people to sing along, and it's always great fun doing that in live settings.
Yeah. Everyone should go listen to that. That actually is my most played song
Class.
of all time on Spotify. And like, you know, most people would say,
Yeah.
whatever, they're your friends, of course it is. But I had no idea. I didn't think you... I mean, I love you and all,
Thanks,
but
bro.
aside from you,
Yeah.
I don't listen to indie, just like off my own bat. So for your songs to be popping up in my number one, my top 5 songs, kind of surprised me, but I was also delighted, of course. And I think Sword Fighting might be one of the best things you've put out. So I just want to ask you a quick question as well. Was it music technology you did in Maynooth?
Yeah, so in Maynooth I studied, I did a double major, so I studied anthropology and music technology.
Yeah.
And anthropology was kind of just, you know, my favourite of all the random other arts degree parts that I had to do, because I had to do a double major for some reason. But I ended up actually really enjoying anthropology. It's one of my favourite sort of...
Yeah, sounds really
So
interesting.
academic. Yeah, so the academic subjects aside from music. So, but yeah, no, primarily the reason I got into the idea of studying music technology was because of in transition year, sort of amidst all of my EDM production, and when I sort of started to produce a little bit of indie music and that, I worked in a studio in town in Dublin called Lime Studios, and I ended up working on a show that actually went on RTE. It was Don't Tell the Bride.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah. I ended up doing the mixing, and my job was basically to pick songs for situations. So they'd originally mixed like all of the episodes with songs that were charts songs, and there was something wrong with the licensing for them, so I had to like find stock versions of songs for to replace the chart songs. And I know it's really funny, like just the way like the difference that the background music can have. Like if for example, let's say you'd have like a scene of on Don't Tell the Bride of like a man, it'd be like cutting between like the wife talking about what she wants and then the man talking about what he thinks his wife wants.
Sure.
And you'd have like some, like, I don't know, some generic pop music for when the girl is talking. Then you'd have some like jangly country music when the man is talking, just so it makes the man sound like stupid or something, because he's way off. But if you actually just play them without any music, it just seems like a boring interview. But if you kind of like add that little bit of like, I don't know, silly sounding music to the background, it just makes the man look like a idiot.
Yeah, of course. It's like a laugh track.
But yeah. But sorry, I got a bit derailed there. So yeah, I was working on Pro Tools on that one, which is it's like the industry standard software, and yeah, that was someone who worked professionally as an audio engineer. I think he still works, and he's got the guy I was working with still owns his studio, and then the other people I was working with have opened up more studios, and I went and met up with them somewhat recently in the last like 2 years or so. So yeah, that's kind of like that was always like the end goal. It was like consistently have some form of well, actually not even to do with the income, just constantly have some musical projects going sort of on the side that would hopefully amount to some money, and then to someday hopefully work professionally as an audio engineer who works on like television shows and stuff. That was always the sort of the motivation behind going to college to study music technology. So
yeah, because I was going to ask if you ever like, were you wondering maybe when you did leave and see it about doing something like BIM? I know a few people who do that, or like Pure Music. I know Kieran's sister does that, our friend.
Yeah.
But you felt that you'd get more studio time and just like spend more time in that professional environment if you did music technology, obviously. Yeah,
I kind of so when I initially went looking for music technology, as you know, what the best path for that was in Ireland, like the ones that came up in like sort of surface level research that you do would have been like either BIM or like a few 1-year courses in town, or else one called Pulse College. That's like, I think it's cost like $8,000 a year or something to go to Pulse College.
Everyone in the sort of media industry is familiar with that place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I just went and talked to one of the studio engineers that I worked with in town, Keith, and he said that he's hired a few of the Pulse engineers, and they've all been shite, like just not had a fucking clue what they're doing. And he said all the BIM people, he says they just also just don't have a fucking clue what they're doing, and it seems like they just don't really have anything to show for the time that they spent in college. Whereas, I don't know, I went to Maynooth open day just to see what the college was about, and just immediately I was just so fucking taken aback by how much you cover in that course and how much I've learned from that course. It's like you study, like you learn everything in the first year through analog, which is like the old mixing desks and stuff like that. So like before digital like computerized production happens, and that's what all of the softwares for modern music production is designed around. So like, you know, if you were to just like they do in Pulse, I don't really know if they do this in BIM. I'd say they probably do, but they just have you straight away working on software. And then there's just all of these weird sort of like interfaces that exist through software that you don't really understand why they exist like that. But if you were to learn it through analog, you'd understand like the whole thing. I don't know if I really explained that very well, but yeah, basically I think it's an amazing course. I've learned so much from the Maynooth course that I carry into my day-to-day, like everything that I do on a day-to-day basis with production and stuff like that, can for the most part be traced back to Maynooth. And then also like you just get so much extra stuff that you wouldn't get when you think about an audio engineering course. Like we learned how to code C sound, which is like C code, and it's like synthesizing. It's not just synthesis, but it's like synthesizing sound through computers with like I don't know, like opcodes and stuff like that. And yeah, it was really fucking cool. I suppose what I'm trying to say here is if you're like a kid that hasn't gone to college yet, or even if you're not and you are thinking about going to study anything, even anything music related in college, I think go do music technology in Maynooth, because I think it's absolutely class. Then actually the only thing it doesn't have is it doesn't really have any contacts for you after college, which is what occasionally happens with, like, I don't know, I suppose you hear about that in Trinity and stuff, just people getting hired off the bat with their degrees. But yeah, in terms of just information or just stuff at hand that you can use, yeah, Maynooth is great.
Great. Yeah, so I just want to talk then about, like, I guess your career is the best way to call it. So your first EP is called The Boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that features sword fighting, again, my most played song ever. So, like, maybe do you want to talk us through kind of the creative process, of someone kind of making their first sort of record? You know, especially
sure.
You were young enough. Like, I mean, you weren't a kid, but I'd say I'd say you learned a lot on that. Did you?
I did. I'd say I probably learned the majority of the type of production that I do now amidst the creation of that track. And actually, the weird thing about that track is, so I released my first EP. What was it? It was 2018 in the summer. But I wrote Sword Fighting before. I wrote and for the most part produced Sword Fighting before the Leaving Cert, which was how many years ago now? What year did we
did our Leaving in 2016, so 4
2016, years. Yeah. So that song was just sort of sitting on a hard drive, sort of mostly produced, but not like really polished off for the most part of 2 years. And then when I went to college, I met my good friend Mark Duggan. He's also an artist on Spotify, and he had so he has an artistry under the name Mark Duggan that he's sort of pushing for the most part now. But when we first went into college, he had it was kind of like a psychedelic rock band sound called Elephants in a High Tree on Spotify, and it was pretty huge. He's got like, I think I remember correctly, he had like 40,000 listens on some of his stuff.
Damn.
Yeah, but so he doesn't work with that artistry anymore at all. But I remember just being like completely taken aback, and I'm like, I don't know, I just immediately thought like, holy shit, Mark might be my in to the music industry, because I think like most people think they see someone having and releasing their own music, you just assume that they've gotten like, you know, discovered by an A&R guy or something. But no, it was kind of Mark that opened up the whole world of running and owning a solo label to me, which is yeah, it's fucking class. It's one of the best things about modern music. So yeah, I suppose what that is if you think of the music industry maybe 10 years ago, it would have been like the top 100 artists would have just owned like all of the money, and they would have just had like basically like the entire charts and stuff like that would have been controlled by, you know, this like the almost like how Hollywood would control, and they're like blockbuster films and stuff, and they'd own all of the publishing rights and stuff like that, just because of how iTunes would work and just how music was consumed as well, with like radio and stuff. It was so relied on contacts and you know, I suppose basically just contacts. And then when Spotify came along, it allowed for people to sort of run their own sort of music labels, as though, like, you know, you'd have like your, let's say you'd have Dunn's Stores would be like an
right.
Dunn's Stores would be like the fucking the chartsy people, and then you'd have someone who runs like a corner shop but still makes a living. That would be the people who are running their solo labels. So like instead of like one artist owning like millions like Ariana Grande or something like that, you could have like a nice decent level of income. It's a lot more work because you have to run everything by yourself.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, you can make your own sort of living off music now, and you don't. And often what happens is that builds over time too. It's not just like you sort of, you know, if your music is good enough, it eventually builds into something where you probably will get contacted by bigger labels and stuff. And yeah,
that's actually, I was going to come back to that point later on, and you just hit it early on. I was going to ask you, you know, I've heard a lot of people lately saying that art is becoming democratized. I think I said that word right. And
nice.
I was kind of like, you'd know a lot more than me. Do you think that holds true in the music industry? Because like we see guys like Chance the Rapper, who, you know, just became absolutely massive, and I don't think he's signed to a label, is he?
No, now like it's kind of a weird one in that like he's so big now that I'd say he just has like he has like a manager and stuff, and then he just do like sync deals instead of it'd basically be like the same. Like let's look at Hosier for example. Hosier is signed to a really small Irish label called Rubyworks, but he has done like American tours and stuff like that under Sony. So it's like these shared contract clauses where he isn't owned by Sony or like what are like the bigger labels? I'm blanking on them at the minute.
Like Warner and stuff.
Yeah, like Warner, and like because Sony and Warner Brothers and Interscope and all of them, they're meant to be so like just soul crushing to work for, because everything is just, it's like they discover someone who came up through their own like self-discovery, and then once they have them and sign them, everything is like just being orchestrated by, you know, all of these industry professionals that you know are pulling strings behind the scenes and stuff and trying to make things a certain way. And the Black Keys are kind of like a good example of that, and that they've always just said like, absolutely fuck off if you think you're gonna tell us how to make our music. And then like this year they had a big thing where they brought a record to, I think they brought a record to a few like indie labels and stuff, and they've always gone with indie labels because they hated the idea of going with a big label that like tries to tell them what to do. And I think a few people were just like, oh, this isn't the right sound or something for blah blah blah, and they were like, fuck it, we're just going to open our own label. And they did, and yeah, their album did really well this year.
Yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah, it's much cooler to see.
Yeah, so I think like a big part of that surely has to be internet. The internet like has made that possible. Like,
yeah, definitely.
No way someone in the 80s could have just like done what you've done, I guess, and just lashed their music up on Spotify. You know, I mean, not to say that eventually you wouldn't have been picked up by a record label. But I mean, just trying to, you're definitely more able to make your own opportunities nowadays, I feel.
You are, yeah. Like, I suppose you'd have a person sort of, you'd need a lot of money in the first place to start off, compared to like now. Like everything that I've started off with is like, for the most part, being like, I had to pay for some paperwork and stuff to get my label set up and stuff, but you just do it through like a music curator now. It's so easy. And our my record label is called Derek Cartel, if anyone was interested. Inside joke. And yeah, it's cool, because it also, if you go through a curator and you do all the paperwork, like if someone just Googles you, there's like a whole pile of results that come up, and yeah, I suppose that's kind of cool. Even like before any of my music was like listened, like literally the first week that I released my EP, I was going around being like, oh yeah, Google me, and it would just come up as like musical artist. It was cool.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes nearly like a little mini page for you, isn't it? Automatically. Yeah. I remember we thought you'd made it when that popped up.
Yeah. So,
there's then another point I was going to talk to you about is what do you think the role social media plays in music nowadays? Because I feel meme songs are a huge thing at the minute. Like you look at the likes of like Old Town Road, and then even people like Megan Thee Stallion or The Stallion and Lizzo, while they put out like, I don't want to call it more serious music and be rude to Lil Nas X, but they maybe they put out a little bit more serious music, but still memes are kind of passing their music around in a way that certain artists don't get the benefit of. Like there's no funny video with a coronavirus caption of an Ed Sheeran song at the minute anyway.
No, there isn't. And you're dead right. There's, I don't know, I'd say a good like 20 to 30% of like the top 100 now are probably just people who were discovered off some stupid Vine style video that was pretty funny. There's a song that I've been listening to a lot by a guy called Jack Stober. It was just like this random meme of this Asian man dancing, and his face was like floating across the screen, and then he'd like jump and catch his face, and then like this music was in the background, and it was like, that's hilarious. And then I Shazammed the song, and I saw that he's got like 150 million listens on that song. And then I looked at like the just the increase of his listens recently, and just the massive exponential spike in his listens has been like in the last month or two, when that meme was going around. Like before that, he was literally an artist that wasn't being listened to. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy that kind of thing can happen.
Yeah, so maybe that's just the next thing that I will try to do. make a meme song.
And what are your social medias there? Just plug them while we're on the topic.
Yeah, here's some plugs. So on Instagram it's Dunluvly, Dunluvly. On Spotify it's also Dunluvly, Dunluvly. On Twitter I think it's also Dunluvly, Dunluvly. And I suppose I have a Facebook page too. No one really uses Facebook that much anymore, but it seems of things. I also have a TikTok, but I have 0 followers, so
everyone follows TikTok.
Everyone follow my TikTok. Yeah, it's going to be where I'm going to get my meme.
Sure, we're going to have videos of lads dancing to Dunluvly songs.
Yeah,
doing the sleeves dance.
Yeah.
So like I could talk all day about social media and the way it's changing our culture, but I'd end up just totally derailing our podcast here. So I'm going to skip ahead to closer to the present day, and you've released a new song called Paint My Mind.
I have.
And this has been reviewed on a gentleman called Finbar Hoban on his website.
It has.
He is, would it be fair to call him a music critic? I think.
Yeah, like a music blog would be kind of what his website is.
Yeah, according to his website anyway, he's represented acts such as Fontaine's DC, Girl Band, Damien Dempsey, Le Galaxy, and a whole load more. So
nice.
I don't know what exactly he does. Maybe you know better, but that's a pretty impressive resume.
Thank you.
Was that a big deal when you got that review? Did you feel happy
It
about
was, yeah, because it was my first response in my absolutely soul-crushing PR campaigns that I run myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, just like, I suppose, to give people a bit of a background on what it's like to release your own music through your own PR campaigns, is like, you can pay like 500 quid to promote a single through an agency, and you sign away like any complaints that you can make about it not going anywhere, and all that they'll do for the most part is just email your song around in this press release, which would be like an article written just about the song and what you've been up to over the last year, with some fancy photos of yourself. And yeah, they just send it out to thousands of people, and I suppose if they're well established, you'll get some people to come back to you. So what I did instead, because I didn't have any fucking money for the last year, I've been the most poor individual ever, I have constructed a fake PR company called DerekCartelPR.com, and then I pretend to be our friend Kieran. I just use his phone number and have an email set up, and I just be like, "Hey, Kieran here. I'm working with Dunluvly as part of his thing." And yeah, when I started doing that this year, I finally started getting people writing back to me, being like, "Hey, Kieran, nice to hear from you." Blah 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 blah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, because what I used to do all of the last few years has been like, "Hey, I'm Dunluvly. I'm trying to get people to listen to my music," and you would send out like 4,000 emails as part of a PR campaign, and you would not get a single email back except for ones that are like auto replies. I'm like, "Oh, I'm out of office at the minute," or something. So
yeah, so like promoting yourself at the minute, would you say it's easier or harder than previous back in the day?
It's easier because I know what's a waste of time and what isn't. It's also just like anything that you can find through Google, as in like an email address for like to send someone your PR release. Usually you're not really going to get any response from it. It's all just stuff that you collect over time, like little radio contacts and like people who own blogs and stuff that have gotten back to you in the past. And I suppose you just have to fucking put in the hours. You just have to put in, a good few failed attempts before. And like, I'm not for 1 second saying that I've had any successful attempts. Like, my music is still very, very low in terms of stream count and stuff. But, in terms of getting established, I mean, it's like a, pub scene and stuff. And getting to a point where you can eventually start making money off of live performances with Spotify revenue or other forms of revenue. Yeah, it just takes fucking ages of just sending out emails and shit like that.
So you're very active on the sort of gigging scene, I suppose. I've seen you in Workman's a few times.
Yeah.
And you're around the rest of the country as well, places like Kilkenny, Carrick-on-Shore, those kind of spots, aren't you?
Yeah. I've been gigging for quite some time now. So my first ever gig was in a small town called Carrick-on-Shore, which is way the fuck out there in the middle of nowhere. It's in Tipperary. How I got that was one of my greatest friends and musical partners, his name is Ryan Fahey. Me and him, pretty much for most of our the last 3 years we've been performing gigs and stuff, we have played in a duo, an acoustic duo with two guitars and then both of us on vocals. And Ryan is originally from Carrick-on-Shore, and he was able to get us some slots in this tiny little pub called the Strand Bar. And then we started working our way through the Carrick-on-Shore music scene until we got a regular spot in this lovely bar called the Cooney's Pub. And yeah, it's just one of my favourite places to play. It's just this nice, long, sort of almost like triangular shaped pub, and we had a regular spot there for about a year, and amidst that sort of time of us playing a regular spot, we were also playing Waterford. We played in Kilkenny as well. We played Maynooth as well, Maynooth SU, and then I suppose the year after that was final year of college, so we didn't actually do that much pub gigging. We did the occasional sort of gig around the place, but I think in that year we gigged in Tala at one stage.
The Brass
Fox was the one. I think you were at that game.
That the place? I was at that, yeah. I took pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a weird one. That was like, yeah, I was just playing to an empty bar, except for a few great pals who came along. And yeah, your man wanted us to do a regular spot for like £100. And like for Ryan to come up from Kilkenny to get like €50, it wasn't really worth it, especially in just like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really like the guy anyway, the pub owner, so I'm kind of glad we didn't take that one. But yeah, since then over the course of final year, we actually started getting some traction in Maynooth, and we ended up, I think I played a few solo shows in the actual SU venue, which is like definitely the biggest venue I've played so far. And yeah, they asked me to come play at like a fashion show. We did like a support act for a band called Just Like Us, who are like this big they're these lads that sound like Picture This. They really don't like when you say that, but yeah, fuck it. Then after that, me and Ryan played the SU bar a few times. We got called back to play the SU bar, and then I played the SU bar solo by myself one time with me and my loop pedal. And then
it was a great gig.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're also at that one. But we have since started playing with one of the best musicians I've ever met. His name is Christian Conifer. He's a drummer. He's a jazz drummer, and mother of God, you will not find a better groove in a musician. It's amazing.
Christian's a funny guy. He never really seems to stop moving. Suits a drummer, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's man, you are nailing all my topics today. You're talking about these other musicians that you work with.
Yeah.
And, some of the main ones. Well, maybe not the main ones. The ones I've seen you play with are Baby Lamb.
Yeah.
Great guys. Put on a really good show in Workman's.
Yeah.
Mark Duggan, of course, great guy. Ryan Fahey, sound bloke, great musician. And then Elkin, you guys are pals as well. You've been together. Do you think you guys have influenced each other, maybe?
Yeah, influenced each other.
I don't know if it's too early to say that, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Not all of you have like music out.
Yeah. So in terms of the people I've worked with, I'm a lot closer with Baby Lamb than I would be with, for example, with like, I don't know, Elkin. I'm really good friends with Ellen from Elkin, and I know Carla pretty well. They're just both really, really cool people. But with Baby Lamb, I'm just really, really good friends with Toby, the lead singer, and then Alicia as well, one of the singers. And then their guitarist Keen, and then Reen, who's like their producer / Ableton wizard when they're playing live. Yeah, they're all just amazing people. Definitely should go check out their music as well. It's on Spotify. They've got one track on Spotify. They got really, really big this year. Yeah, called Body Right. And also they accidentally sent me some demos. They meant to send it to someone else, but they accidentally sent them to me, and I got to listen to them, and they're fucking class. So they've a load of great stuff coming as well. In terms of influence, yeah, I definitely would say that we've influenced each other in an aspirational sense. Like, I don't know, just with conversations with Toby and stuff, and like, and Alicia about what it means to be a musician would definitely have had a very positive impact on me. And like, I remember, so I released a song called Caustic Love about 3 months ago now. It's a very sort of folky track, and it's kind of one of my favorite tracks I've ever written from a folk perspective, because growing up, the main sort of musician that I would have listened to would have been Damien Rice, and in folk anyway, and his sort of acoustic sound comes across quite well in that song. And I put the song out, and I didn't have any money to put into promo for this song. I basically just like sent out emails and hoped for the best. And in terms of like a Spotify success, it was a complete flop, and it like never really got to anything that would have brought in any money. And I was pretty down about it after the release. But then I was just talking to Toby about that, and he was just telling me about how it was one of his favorite songs at the minute, and how it doesn't really matter, because it's still an expression at the end of the day, and it went out there, and as long as I enjoy the music, it matters, you know what I mean? Because that's the other thing about yeah, like actually that's another weird thing. Like sometimes if people ask you like, do you listen to your own music? It's always like, or do you ever get sick of listening to your own music when you're like editing and stuff? And I was like, no, not at all. Like I'm making music that I think is class. Otherwise, why the fuck would I not put it out? Or why the fuck would I put it out? Not in any like I don't know. Like I think it's stupid to be like, oh yeah. Like, it's stupid to be humble about your music, because you wouldn't release it if you didn't think it was good. If that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, of course. And you make the music.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I suppose your music at the end of the day is just an accumulation of all of the cool sounds that you found in other musicians' music, and then you've brought that, music isn't a word, but brought that together into this sort of conglomerate song of all your favourite bits in a lot of ways. So like, why would you not listen to it? So
I like that idea. You said in that review on Finn Verhoeven's site, he had a quote from you, and it says, "Staying true to your core values is my eventual deduction by the song's end." I think that was referring to Paint My Mind. But yeah, I just, when I was doing like research for this podcast, and I was trying to figure out I guess what we talk about, I spotted that, and I really thought that was nice. I really appreciated that feeling. And you were talking about how like Caustic Love didn't do as well as you hoped, and it's funny, you might put out something that you thought was brilliant, in your eyes, is the best thing you've done, but it might not perform the best. And how I have written here, how do you maintain your creative energy? That's very like chi talking or something. I don't know. How do you keep your spirits up, I guess? Or like
I suppose I just have to. Yeah, you just have to. Basically, like,
yeah.
So sometimes, like, if I was to reflect on a couple of weeks and realize that I've been, like, thinking about things in a negative way, or like just getting like pissed off that my music hasn't been going anywhere. It's sort of it's a skewed way of thinking from why I became a musician in the first place. Like, I suppose, like, why I became a musician, I remember for all of my teenage years, it was like something that I wanted to do with just this really sort of idealized like goal of someday getting validity from other people listening to my music. And then eventually at a certain point I just had like a bit of a, I suppose, like an epiphany or something, or like a moment of enlightenment, in that like, that is just such bullshit. And if that is like your reason to become a musician, there's no point in it, because you're never going to attain that validity ever. And the only reason that you should ever be a musician is if you just thoroughly enjoy playing music and creating music. That's like the only motivator. You know what I mean? And like, it was that like accumulated over the few years of just like playing with like Ryan in our duo, and just getting just these absolute moments of euphoria as the two of us just fucking like kill a song in that live moment of just like just creating something new, and that euphoria that I get it every time I play with Ryan and Christian in our sort of band setup. We just have such good groove together, and it's that, like, I wish everyone could experience that. Like, I know a lot of people who aren't musicians, I suppose. Like, I've always struggled with how, like, to describe this to people. Like, just having like an amazing jam with someone and like coming up with something new. It's just the best feeling ever.
Yeah, there's been times for sure that I haven't seen you gig that much actually for someone who's friends with you, but for sure, especially your last gig in Workman's, there was points you hit with certain songs or like certain moments in songs where like you can definitely feel the energy in the crowd, and that was something really cool to feel in not such a small crowd, but I mean, we're kind of, we might imagine, for people who don't go see live music and smaller gigs like Workman's or Whelan's, they might imagine that kind of energy is reserved for like stadium gigs, but no, for sure, like you can definitely feel that crowd like swelling at certain points, because the music is just so like, it nearly feels more personal in those settings, and
just how sound can just take over a space and become something shared by like 40 or 50 people. It's just an amazing feeling. It's just everyone gluing together on the same focus. It's the reason that I'm a musician. And then sometimes I start slipping back into those like sort of juvenile ideas of like, juvenile's the wrong kind of word. Just like very sort of simplified, poorly thought out ways of thinking in terms of like, rating yourself off of your Spotify stream count or something like that. And like, while that's good for the money that's coming in at the end of the day, like I'm still pretty sure like myself and like Ryan make more money being musicians than the likes of other musicians that we'd know who'd be like a little bit further in terms of stream count than like my Dunluvly music, but they wouldn't make any real sort of money because they're not doing like live gigs or anything like that, you know what I mean? Like, there's money to be made, and it's, obviously if you're just like fucking unemployed and making zero money off music and it's all that you're doing, you're going to feel shite. That's just an inevitability. But what's my main point here? Like, it's reminding myself of them values, and I suppose how I get to that is just like meditating and stuff like that, and just bringing I keep I keep a good few journals, but one of my most important ones is a journal that I call my philosophy journal, and it's not really philosophy. It's like just basically all of these like moments of enlightenment that I've come to, and I just sort of put them in. If it's really important to me, I put it in this journal, and then I can just sort of go to this journal if I think I've strayed from my musical values, and just remind myself of why I do it in the first place. And then like a half an hour of reading and just an hour in a day set aside could give me like a couple months of just having such clear perspective of where I want to go with things.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, like, not to bring it back on myself, but I've written sort of stories and books since I was 8, I'm pretty sure, and until I don't know how recently, after I finished school anyway, so probably the last 4 years or less, I guarded the like notebooks that I wrote in like with my life. Like, there would be digs thrown if someone tried to open the first page of one of those notebooks. And now more recently I've kind of looked into maybe publishing's the wrong word, maybe putting some of the stuff I write out there, and it's given me like fucking anxiety, man. And then I just have to think back to like the 10-year-old kid who was just like writing crazy stories about goblins taking over the world, and just loving every minute of it. And I think like that's something as well that it's an idea that I have had to relearn and Chasing 100 is actually part of that, so it is relevant that just because you can't be the best at something, or even just because you can't be considered the best at something by like the public, doesn't mean it's not worth your time. I mean, I don't even know what division my football team plays in, but like I love every second of it. And it's like good crack with the lads, you know. Why wouldn't you do it? You don't have to be a Premier League footballer, a inter-county player to enjoy sport. You don't have to be Ariana Grande or Dermot Kennedy to enjoy music, because like, I mean, I guess hobbies are kind of what life's for in a way.
Exactly.
And I would always think that like you don't have to be the best, you just have to be better. Like that's, you know, when if I was to think, I start off saying I have to be the best YouTuber in the world. I don't even like calling myself a YouTuber.
Just content creator.
My videos have content creator, sure. I think they have 2,000 views altogether. That's very nice. I really like that, and it makes me happy. But if I was to compare myself to other people, or like particularly compare yourself to the top rung of people, you're going to get tired of that very quickly. And I think that's probably the same with you. Like, you know, you just gotta look at how you're doing at yourself in previous times,
exactly.
Because you don't have the same streams as Ariana Grande or Dermot Kennedy, but like, I don't know, your music is objectively good and people like it, and it makes you happy. Like how can that be wrong?
Exactly.
How can that be bad? And that's something that impresses me about you, that you have that same mindset, I think. And I thought that was why that it would be a good idea to bring you on.
Yeah. Interestingly, with Dermot Kennedy, our good friend Jack sent me an interview of his. It was probably about a couple of months ago now, and it was just like Dermot Kennedy basically like talking about his last few years, and he went on to just describe how he's been for so many years before, you know, he was Dermot Kennedy that everyone knows now. He was just doing what I do, and that was really cool to see. Like he was just running a solo label, getting a load of gigs in like pubs and like just anywhere that would really take him. And then he spoke about how it eventually came to a stage with a solo label where they were getting so much Spotify listens that they could see they had a good listenership in London, and so he set up like a sold out show in London. And then it was only sort of at that stage that when he'd well established himself, that like when labels were coming to him being like, okay, we'll offer you this, he said that if he had just been a kid who he was like at the beginning of his solo label, he would have just jumped on that opportunity. But because of the experience that he'd laid out for himself, just having his own solo label, he was able to then look at what the labels were offering and be like, okay, we don't want this, we want a little bit more. And when sort of more offers started coming in, he had a much broader perspective of what was the right contract to take. And actually, I don't know if you remember, but before the Workman's gig in February, I posted a photo of Dermot Kennedy playing in the same room on Instagram. Yeah,
you know what's funny is my cousins were at that gig, because I'm going to do, I love name dropping my cousins. They're friends with them, and they were joking at Christmas when I was over in their house. They were saying, like, we remember the days when you had to be dragged to a Dermot Kennedy gig. You know, it's like, oh, Dermot's having another gig, we better go support him. And then like a year ago, they were backstage with him in like, I don't know if he played Madison Square Garden.
I think he did.
Crazy venue in New York. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he sells out stuff like that. But I think that goes to show, like, it's so typical. They're like, as usual, you know, the media and stuff is saying Dermot Kennedy, this brilliant overnight Irish success, and they're like, it's like 7 years or something, however fucking long he took him overnight. Like he really grinded, and I think it has really paid off for him, because he only actually like officially released music pretty recently, I think. An album. I mean, I don't know if he counts anything before that as albums. So like, man, fair play to him. He just built, and I would hope that you are following after him. And what is it? Work till your idols become your rivals, as they say.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be too nice to be a rival.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard he's a really sound lad, but that is actually pretty much the last question I have for you,
Cool.
written down anyway. How do you think the Irish music scene is right now? And you can answer that with regards to the pandemic, or maybe like we want to park that and not fucking hear about it anymore, and just, you know, even when you did the Workman's gig, like, do you think more, like, a good amount of people are listening to live music, or like, do you think there's, I guess I'm saying, do you think there's an appetite for like smaller live artists in Ireland?
Yes, okay, cool. I suppose I'll touch on both of them a little bit. So with regards to the pandemic, I think a lot of people are just piling out content at the minute in terms of the pandemic, and I think a lot of it's being pretty well received. Like the sort of the live shows and stuff that people were doing on Facebook and that, they were pretty nice for a while there. I suppose, you know, like, excuse me, seeing so many people put out content can feel a little bit weird, I suppose, because it's just kind of like, oh Jesus, everyone's like jumping on this train. But also it's good to see, because it just means that the world is becoming more creative, in that everyone's holed up and they're a little bit sort of stuck in what to do with themselves, and so in response to that, everyone is being creative, which is great, because I think if there was anything wrong with the world as a whole before this pandemic, it was that just people sort of just curb creativity after the age of 20. And they just get pushed into, you know, corporate jobs and stuff like that. That, you know, they just work for you to not be creative, I suppose. I had like a similar sort of disagreement with our friend Sean recently. He was saying about how he thinks that you just stop being creative after like a certain age, I think he was saying. And then my response was like, how can that be true if it's literally my job is to be as creative as possible? And if anything, it's developed to 100 times what it was when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I think he just gets that perspective from the like shoehorn society that we sort of live in. So I think in terms of the pandemic, in that sense, it's great. Everyone's becoming a bit more creative. But Ireland's music industry, I think it sort of only really exists amidst our festival season, which is kind of sad. You can make a killing if you move to London, and that's kind of seems to be what all Irish artists do. If you just either go over and start gigging in London and sort of work between both, or you just straight up move to London, because there's just so much more musical opportunity in terms of performance. Like to do the small few Workman's gigs that I've done, it's all organised by like me and, you know, people who have like, you know, been really generous about helping out and stuff, you know. Like you can you can eventually get like shows and stuff, and it can be pretty good. But you know, like how often do you hear about someone playing more than like 6 or 7 headline shows in Dublin throughout the year? Not very often, you know. And
yeah, it's nearly a mark of a lack of success.
Yeah, and like you don't make that much off them headline shows in Ireland, so
yeah. There's a band, you're probably going to know the ones I'm talking about, and I don't actually want to name them, even though like there's no chance they're going to listen to this. I still don't name them because I really like their music, but they have been just stuck in Ireland for years, and they only gig here. Like all they ever do is just play like the INEC, back up, play like Whelan's or the Olympia, play Castlebar, play someplace in Donegal, play someplace in Belfast. They're just doing laps of the island. And
Would
I
they
think,
play?
like,
Would they play
it's
in
a
Mayo?
real-
Just to figure out if I know who you're talking about.
They have,
I know
yeah.
who you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's a shame because like it's the same, and like my like area knowledge would be like film and TV, and it is just a disaster that like, I mean, people working here in film and TV because they're working here will obviously disagree, but like, if you look at the biggest success stories coming out of Ireland, the answer is go work for Channel 4.
Exactly.
Go move to New York.
Yep.
Go move to LA. Like, there's, I mean, someone is going to drop into the comments. I doubt it. Who's like, I don't know who's listening, and correct me. But like, no, like, international acclaimed artist has ever popped out of RT
not really.
or TV3. No. And I think actually, in fairness to the music scene, I was kind of surprised that you said it's not great, because I maybe thought you'd think it's a bit better, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, like I don't mean that it's bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than other countries. And
Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and if you want to play, and if you take the same sort of values that I talked about earlier in the podcast about just really enjoying playing, you can make a living, and you can get to a level where you've built up enough contacts and you just get loads and loads of performances around the country. You're just never going to make so much that you're going to be able to retire early or something like that. And like, that's kind of a thing that like almost needs to happen with musicians, because, you know, past a certain age, just people don't really take your music very seriously for a lot of cases, you know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, not you know, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I'm sure a lot of musicians kind of will reach a point where they have kind of run out of stuff to make nearly. You know, I'd say it's one of those jobs where physically there's nothing stopping you from staying very good or at the top for a long time, but I mean, from just what we see from like chart artists, even like they have a lifespan that
exactly
tends to run out.
The only people that don't are the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Just like, they live for the word jamming and the groove. You just see them up there having a great time all the time, and I think it's just because of that ideology that they're so successful. They just fucking love playing music, and that's all they do. So like,
they put on great shows, alright. I'm not even like a fan like say you or like Paddy is, but when we saw them live that time, like I was blown away. Like I couldn't believe
they're amazing.
Just like the musicality of these guys,
and just how they can like stop mid-show because one of them will like just play a little ditty, and then the other one will pick up on that and just be like, ooh, and then they'll start playing like a bass line to it, and then they're suddenly just like creating a full new riff just live on the stage, and then they're like, sorry, we'll get back to the show.
Yeah, I mean they played about 4 songs.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
saw them. The rest is like freestyling.
Yeah, they're fucking amazing.
Yeah, so like, do you think maybe this is all off the cuff now? We've run through the topics. Do you think like, say, partnering up with venues in the UK could be like a good in terms of like, maybe if there was a Workman's Birmingham or a Whelan's London, do you think that could be a good option for Irish musicians maybe to like get their way in, or is booking not a problem? Audiences is the issue.
Yeah, it's more audiences is the issue. So like a lot of what happens in our pub gigs and stuff is that we have to play like mostly covers and then throw in a few originals to get paid, which is like, it can be a little disheartening sometimes if it's still really enjoyable to play good music, but you know, my favourite shows are obviously like the Workman's ones, where we get to play just a full set of my own music that I've written. And so yeah, I suppose that is probably the best option, just to start reaching out overseas to you know, places in the UK that would put on a lot of live shows and stuff. Yeah, I'd say I'll probably at some stage go over to London to try my hand at the music over there. Because it's so easy nowadays as well. Like, you just have flights for the cost of a bus ticket, and you know, gear is obviously a problem. With getting, you know, you need a decent amount of gear to put on a show, but yeah, I suppose once you start getting established, you need to bring less gear to places, and they have more gear there on spot, which is always nice, and then you still get paid. Like, for when me and Ryan started pub gigs and stuff, we bought our own PA, and then like my small Opel Corsa would have like fucking definitely not enough room to swing a cat, let alone swing a mouse. So yeah, we'd
the car needed to be struggling with the speakers in the back.
Exactly, and then we'd pull up and like spend like 3 trips coming in and out, setting up our whole stage, and then you know, now like playing Workmans and stuff, the PA is there, and we just bring in a lot of our own gear still, which is, it's always fun. It's always really fun. You're just having the crack with everyone setting up, and like Maynooth always have their own gear set up for us. So, and then like when we played Waterford and stuff, they had the PA there ready for us, and yeah. Once you start getting bigger, apparently the script have just like, they literally just leave the hotel and they just arrive on stage. But I'd say it's probably like that for most big artists like them. They just arrive, and people have put new strings on all their guitars and set up all of their mics and everything ready for the show. So
yeah, like I saw Arctic Monkeys in Marley Park back in the day. I think the script from my first concert, actually.
Oh, well.
That was my first like proper one that I didn't go with my family.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, these guys are fucking rock stars. Look at the way they're just like, they click their fingers, and a poor little servant has to run out and change the guitars. Yeah, like, and then, like you said, like there was a lot less equipment. Thank God you weren't bringing like a full PA. But I went with you to the Workman's gig that time, and helped you set up. And well, help is a strong word. And I remember we parked. If people, I mean, no, there are American listeners. But if people don't know where Workman's is, it's on one side of the River Liffey, and we literally had to like park the other side of the river and like run across the bridge and like back down the quays with each piece of equipment.
Yeah, and
I was.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was glad I didn't have to carry the bass amp that the lads were bringing in anyway.
Ryan is such a beast. He just fucking there's no better man for like right, no, I'm doing this, don't worry. He's just like sweating just getting the thing up there, but it's just on his shoulder or something. And the fucking trooper. And it's like that every time we carry out the PA. He always carries like the 2 speakers and the PA all at once, and it's just like barely slipping out of his hands, but he's just powers through.
What a man.
Yeah, and then there's Christian has his like trolley with all of his drum gear that he was just bringing through town. And then when Baby Lamb arrived, they were just like, please tell me you guys have drums. And we were just like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, they're just on Harcourt Street or something like that. They're on the way.
They're on Dublin bus.
Yeah, so yeah, man,
it was so funny because like, how many acts were there? Was there 3 or 4 acts that night in Workman's? And when I was filming and taking the pictures, like I had my tripod set up, and I was literally standing on everyone's like guitar cases and piano cases, and I'm just like hoping the owners didn't come and have a freak out at me for standing on all their expensive equipment, because like, so there's like 2 keyboards, I'm pretty sure, bass guitars, drums, regular guitars, microphones, and I'm like in the middle of a fucking, like in the bottom of a plane covered in luggage or something. But
it was actually hilarious for that first half an hour when all of the, just like, first of all, Louise arrived. We should give Louise a shout out too. Louise Monaghan, her music is on Spotify.
Go listen to Louise Monaghan. She's amazing. She's a really good artist.
Yeah,
met her at that gig.
Yeah, so
she's dead sound.
She was first up, and it was her first ever gig, and she was so nervous. And I suppose it was really funny because if I look back to exactly a year before that, we were all in the same room doing the setup, and I was the exact same as she was, just freaking out, like barely getting, a straight thought out. And I was just like, the 2 or 3 hours we had for setup just flew by. Whereas this year I just rocked in like as though I was whacked or something. And I was just fucking so chilled out. I was just like, don't worry about it, man. Just like,
yeah, man.
And yeah, just had a great time. We were all eating Wow burgers. There's just fucking burger grease on all of the gear.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got it done like an hour before the show, and we got everyone like, we just had our little sound check, and yeah, it was great crack.
That was a quality night, in fairness. And it's always like I always wanted to play Workman's more. Not even so I can go see you, but like it's just such a class spot. Now I did find out it's owned by Press Up, so fuck Press Up.
Oh.
But Workman's is grand. Like we'll let Workman's over.
What is Press Up?
And they own like all they own Dublin basically.
Like
they
the
own
hotels
Wellburger,
and shit.
and they own like all of their hotels have men's names and all of their restaurants have women names. So the Dean Hotel and Sophie's, Roberta's and Harry's Hotel. Okay. Does that exist? But people are just annoyed because like they don't like corporations, I guess.
Okay.
But regardless, they do a great venue when they put a Wow burger into it.
And also it's amazing how you can just play a show and then they just let you lock up the room. Yeah. And then everyone just goes out and gets hammered in Workman.
And like it is genuinely like as much as some people might like to shit on it, like myself included, I've slagged them in the past.
Yeah.
For being all like corporate and owned by this big like company.
Yeah.
They really are like everyone knows in Dublin they have like the reputation for being so alt and hipster. They're just like a place where you don't have to worry about like being cool or something. I don't know, like you don't have the same energy when you walk into Workman's as you do in Dicey's, and that is exactly what everyone who goes to Workman's that I know has said to me like over the years. They're like, man, I'm just glad I'm in Workman's and not like D2 or Dicey's.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't fucking have to worry about all the usual shite that goes on.
It's so chill, like,
and there's no like
so chill, and they play real nice music.
Exactly, there's no like fucking blaring like remix of fucking Sean Paul whatever is going on.
Man,
it's great.
Yeah, like it's the type of place if everyone who's listening probably would have been except for the foreigners. If you've ever come to Dublin, Workman's is a great place. You can hear like
hit it up.
Dunluvly or like Baby Lamb, or you could also hear like the DJs playing like New Order and those sort of lads. So there
was a show on the same night that we were there by a band called Acid Granny, and they're hilarious.
I remember them.
They do a thing every St. Patrick's Day where they take over Temple Bar, and they just have like a shopping trolley full of like synths, and they get a rave going in Temple Bar on Paddy's Day.
That's class.
It's fucking hilarious. You can see videos of it on YouTube. But
yeah. Speaking of Temple Bar, like, I wonder what do you think? It probably will. I know you're a techno head to some extent. Izakaya is one of our hangouts.
Oh, I love Izakaya.
We all love Izakaya, man. Mm-hmm. Do you think these like licensing laws that let places stay open will be good for music? I mean, I can't see how they wouldn't be good for like techno nights and stuff. Do you think like acts like yourself, like indie and maybe like alt rock will be booked a bit more because of that, or like no difference?
What is it? Is the licensing for hours being changed?
I think everything. So at the minute, like every pubs are meant to close. If people don't know this, pubs in Ireland are meant to close at 12 on weekends, which is a bit crazy. And then in town, or other like places can have late licenses, which lets them stay open till different times. So I think people not from Dublin are going to be a bit shocked. I'm pretty sure all nightclubs in Dublin close up at 2.
Yeah, I think it is.
And a couple close at 3.
Yeah, coppers.
And I think they're just saying if you serve alcohol, you can stay open till 4 now. I don't know.
That'd be insane, man.
Yeah, I don't know what stage they're like through in like passing this law, or if it's actually going to go ahead. But I think Leo, the big man, was discussing it.
Nice, Leo, the big party pants.
Leo loves Yoke. Everyone knows that. And the Shinners are mad for it because they're mad for the drink. But yeah, like I don't know. I think nightlife is a huge part of Irish culture, considering alcohol is such a huge part of Irish culture.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't know. I've kind of just like rambled on about myself, but like, would you play like a late night gig?
I would. I'd fucking love that.
I think, yeah.
We went to see Elkin. They did a gig that started at 12. I think that was in
For
Workman's.
Culture Night, was it?
Yeah,
Or was
yeah, and
something
that
else?
was class.
Yeah.
Because we like, I don't know. I was telling everyone that they were playing, and we were doing our usual sort of just arriving in town and just floating between venues. And
Yeah.
I had like said,
We all know that.
Yeah, I had said that Elkin are playing tonight, and I wanted to go see them like early in the night. And people were like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then it was like everyone was getting a bit hammered, and sort of it felt as though it was getting towards the end of the night. Not like the end of the night, but like the part of the night where usually we just stay in a place, and it seemed like everyone was sure that we'd missed Elkin's show. But then, yeah, I was like, no, they don't start playing for like a half an hour, and I just managed to get everyone to go to the gig. It was class.
Was that in the like the room in Workman's, was it?
Yeah,
Or was
yeah.
that a different time?
Yeah, that was in Workman's.
Yeah, I think I ended up there after like a 12 pubs or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think like I kind of rambled off there for a bit asking about that question, but I definitely do think, like myself anyway, that the likes of Elkin, you, Baby Lamb, well, they're not like stereotypically seen as like late night music. Like if you could get your buzz on,
Yeah.
and then rock into town, have a little bit of a bop in like Izakaya or somewhere, and then head over and have like a little bit more
Yep.
chilled out
that
sounds.
European feel.
I mean, like, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, you look at Berlin, like Berghain is 24 hours.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's, for tax purposes, it's a museum.
That's
and that's
hilarious.
not even like,
I didn't
that's
know
not
that.
even like them being like sneaky fuckers. Like the city council was like, here, use our museum because these are so important to the culture of this city. So just don't pay
That's
any
so
tax.
funny. That is absolutely hilarious. I did not know that.
And stereotypically, Germans are mad boring people. So
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like, maybe they're like, oh, we just can't have like too much crack. 'cause
I know, yeah,
otherwise
it's ridiculous.
Get nothing done.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure, like there's been a few gigs that we played. We played a pub called Tully's in Waterford, and it was like 12:30, and like it was a real nice gig. We just got to play like all of our own stuff, and like the great thing about Waterford, it's a real good city for appreciating music and letting people just play their own music. But at the end of the night, there was just a load of hammered lads just dancing in front of us. And then Ryan just like looked at me and was like, "Oh God, we got to play Oasis." And we just ended up playing some Oasis. I can't remember what we played. It was like "Don't Look Back in Anger," and all of the lads, the screaming hammered lads, were just like, "And so Sally could wait." And in the middle of the song, the pub owner just pulled the plug, and he was just like, "Sorry lads, it's like nearly one."
yeah.
And all them hammered lads were so annoyed. They were just like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck?"
Of course, like,
Yes, fucking yes.
I mean, that's like, I understand totally. Like, a lot of pubs are run by like people, you know, that are a little bit older, and it's just a job for them. They don't really want to be like stuck with all the punters into the early hours in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
it's a late enough job as is. Like, you don't even get off your shift until 12 on those nights. But for the places that do stay open, like, I think like my local boozer is the Blue Haven,
Nice.
and I don't know if they'd be staying open till 4 now.
No.
But if they could, and if they were like willing to, like, it'd be a lovely spot to spend another few hours in. Like, you know, people, I think when people hear about the licensing laws, they're assuming it's all like young lads and young ones on Harcourt Street and on Camden Street,
Yeah.
just like falling in front of the cars and
Yeah.
vomiting on everyone. But like, I don't know, I think that's because we can't stay in the pub past 12.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. That's why fucking Zaytoon is so popping for about 8
Yeah.
hours into the morning, and it's just such a horrible, smelly place to be. It's just the feeling of being raw and starting to fucking sober up after a night out.
yeah.
That's just
I mean, like,
depicted
if you're
through
an
Zaytoon.
adult and you have a proper job, like a full-time, not a proper job, like a 9 to 5, like
Yeah.
40-hour a week office job, that like, not like us, and you want to go for your night out on Friday night or Saturday night, like, you want to go for your night out, like, you don't want to be told at 12 o'clock, like, go to bed, it's too late for you boys
Yeah.
and girls. And you should be able to do that in like a place like the Blue Haven, or just like everyone's local pub. You all know like what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're from like the Goat, like say that's another one, out further towards the nicer parts of Dublin. But like I think as is, like people our age, people just from like the age like 18 to 30, if they're on a night out, it's like, all right, drinks in my gaff or the local.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're going to kick us out, and then we have to go. Not we have to go to Izakaya because that's always a class time. But like we and then we go and we find a place like Izakaya or depending on the type of person you are, like D2 Dicey's or I don't know, one of the millions of other places. Hooks is a place I kind of like. And then you have to like. It's just why should your night out be in 2 stages?
Exactly. And it's fucking annoying when you arrive at a place and it's like 11 o'clock and they're just like, sorry, no, you're not getting in. So what's the option then? Just to fucking stroll around town?
So many nights out end up like that for a long time. I think also it helps for all our younger listeners who are just getting into going on nights out. If you want to get into places that aren't Harcourt Street, I think from what I've seen is I say this like the Owl Grandad or something being 22, but I think you kind of need to be a regular in somewhere to get in.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is like a catch-22. You know, like I mean, we got in after closing hours into what's it called, the Globe or one of those. Not saying that they actually broke the law, but we got in later than we should have because Kieran like defended the bouncer. From trying to fight him.
Like, she's just calling. She's giving out to him saying that he wasn't letting her in because she was a woman.
You've been here like all night. We should not just go home. and now Kieran gets into that bar for free and no questions asked.
No, she was trying to haze him. Not haze him. What's the term? Whatever.
Yeah.
So hopefully Dublin is it's already, since the 24-hour 15 happened, it's already become so European in class for going on nights out.
I feel the pressure on a night out has gone away
completely.
I think, you know, whereas in fairness that has improved. Like the thing I was saying about having to split your night and having to be on the last bus into town so you could get into this nightclub and it would all have to be like according to plan, when I mean really, like I really doubt other countries have to plan their nights out like that. I mean, when I was in America it was even worse because everyone drives everywhere, so you have to park your car overnight and get an Uber home. Like everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Like unless you live in like the city centre like LA or something, but
America is so shit for public transport. It's so shit.
Full on.
It's like what the fuck? How is this never mind, I'm not going to go on a rant about America.
They have like a Lewis kind of thing that runs through Orange County, which is where my cousins live, and I was like, oh right, yeah, there's like Orange County is really big and it's just next door to LA if people don't know, and I was like, so yous get that then, like if yous ever want to go in LA, because it literally like, oh man, my cousins live in, I'd say, a comparable area to where I live in Dublin, like in relation to the city centre, and it's like a 4-hour drive to get to the airport. Because of the traffic. So I was like, so you get like that train then when you go into town? They're like, oh no, the nearest station for us is 50 miles away. I was
fucking like, hell.
So what's the point? Who gets it? They're like, I don't know, people who live closer than 50 miles to the station.
Oh my god, that's mental.
But I'm starting to ramble now. Getting off track from the podcast, and we've gone over an hour now. So I think I'm ready to call it. If you don't have anything else you want to say.
I'm good.
Cool.
Please,
so plug yourself there.
Please go listen to my music. Dunluvly on Spotify. It's on any streaming platform that you can find. And put it in your family WhatsApp, show your friends, be sound, support your local artists, because I wish I had gig dates to plug, but not going to have any of them for like a fucking year, I'd say, a long time anyway. So Yeah, listen to my music. Also go listen to Mark Duggan's music, Louise Monaghan's music, Baby Lamb's music, and Elkin's music. All of the artists that we spoke about,
All great artists
this evening. They're all phenomenal, and they all have great
you
music.
have one song that may or may not be released that I am a big fan of.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to give the details, but just there's a song that I've heard from Shane. And it's in contention for my favourite song of all time, including Ariana Grande, my absolute favourite artist. No, genuinely, like it's in contention for my favourite song that I've ever heard, and so just keep an eye on his Spotify in case he drops that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tease it.
Yeah, I was gonna sort of, for the last like year or so, I've been promising people to listen to my music, an album, but I have come to a stage where I've realised that ain't it, chief. And what I'm actually going to do instead is I'm just going to keep releasing singles, and I think I'm hopefully going to release 2 EPs over the next year. And
Savage.
Yeah, I'm loving all the music I'm making, and I'm getting excited to put stuff out. So coming soon.
Sweet. Well, Shane, I really appreciate it.
No problem, Keane.
We
Anytime.
have made a pretty top-notch podcast for the first episode, I would say so myself, and that is all thanks to you. Thanks very much. And hopefully we'll have more for you all to listen to again. Everyone go listen to Shane.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, goodbye.